It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. There's news about new Windows 10 build, new Windows Phone build, and yes, lo and behold, Mary Jo Foley has done something shocking. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. Hi, everybody. It's time for our annual audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It helps us understand our audience better, know what you like and don't like, how you listen to the show. It also helps us tell advertisers what kind of people listen. But I promise you, your feedback is always kept personally anonymous. All you have to do is visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It'll just take a few minutes, and it'll help us make Twit even better. We really appreciate your support and any help you can give us. twit.tv/survey. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 452, recorded Wednesday, February 10th, 2016, the Ludicrous Ring. Windows Weekly is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. And by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at FreshBooks.com/Windows. And by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to Audible.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Redmond with two of the most astute Redmond watchers in the business. Mary Jo Foley, of course, she writes all about Microsoft at, oddly enough, allaboutmicrosoft.com. But that's really
cannily named.
The cannily named ZDNet, of course, joint. And at Mary Jo Foley on the Twitter, if you want to pass her any tips during the show. She apparently monitors Twitter. I finally figured this out after working with you for years. You're monitoring Twitter as we do the show.
I am. I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm answering viewers.
Tweets. I'm tweeting.
In real time.
Don't bug me. I'm tweeting.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I was writing a post. What was that?
That's Paul Thurrott, the eternal blogger. Many of our hosts are typing as we're doing the show.
It's not a sign of disrespect.
It's not.
Paul
Thurrott's at Thurrott.com, where he covers also all things
Thurrott.
Thurrott. Microsofty.
Because I am.
He is
very strange and sad.
And every Wednesday we gather together to, as you say in your Twitter yesterday, help talk people down from the cliff.
Yes.
It's going to be okay. Some people who have tuned in early probably noted that I am in the process of resetting my Surface Book. It's actually gotten worse.
I actually think your success rate is going to be a little higher because you're wearing a suit.
I decided to dress like Steve Ballmer would want me. I even have nice shoes, and hoping that will help with the Surface Book gods. I'm feeling kind of guilty because I gave it a rave review when it came out. I encourage people to buy it. I've been recommending it and the Surface Pro 4, and now I'm feeling like.
See, I'm feeling pretty good because if you go back and read my review, I was like,
I've had problems.
Some reliability issues. I'm not sure what to say about this.
Sigh. Anyway, I'll give you some update. The last straw was and it's happened I think over the weekend. It went into this flickering green screen, and I couldn't stop it. I had to reset it, and then when I reset it, it said can't turn on the camera. Enter your PIN.
I get that on my desktop computer now. This is for Windows Hello.
Yeah.
I really think part of this has to do with Intel drivers. I think that when they fix something, sometimes it screws up something else. It is very strange how this happens.
It's not you. Somebody tweeted maybe it's Windows 10, and you were quick to put the kibosh on that.
Nope, it's not Windows 10. That much I can say.
Because it works fine on other systems.
Yeah, and it's inconsistent.
It is.
Even
Clearly
on this
there's something-
hardware, it's inconsistent, which is weird. I mean, it has not been inconsistent for me. It's been consistently bad since.
Yes. And so when we talk about this issue, there are the people who've had no problems, and they wonder what the heck we're talking about and why are we complaining so much. And then there are the people who've had nothing but problems, and they're like, please, you're not even hammering this hard enough. It's really bad. And it really does depend. I don't know that there's any, I mean, maybe Microsoft will eventually come clean on who's seeing what and all that kind of stuff, but it sort of seems anecdotally that Surface Pro 4 users see it less frequently, although the problems do happen on Surface Pro 4 too.
Yeah, I feel like it has to do with, in fact, I even, before I did this reset, detached the screen, thinking maybe if I just don't use this keyboard thing, maybe that's part of the problem. You know, the fact that the GPU's in the keyboard and that that has to confuse it a little bit. But then as it was detached, there was no keyboard. It said, can't turn on the camera, use your PIN. So I went to the PIN, and it didn't pop up a keyboard. So I couldn't. So
that should work.
It's all I can do not to throw it across the room. And fortunately, with it detached, it flies quite nicely.
Yeah, so you've just described every single day of my life. It's not always about Surface Book, but I pretty much at one point during every day I have that exact reaction about some technology. Okay,
I'm not going to say what I want to say, which is get a Mac, but
no, I would have to say no. The Mac doesn't fix those problems. It's not, and I didn't mean to suggest that was always Windows or PCs. I mean
technology does that. But I've never had. This would be the first computer I've ever returned. I've never had to return a computer, mostly because I buy Macs.
So it's
well, no, I take it back. I lied. The Mac Pro, the black trash can. I had a swap once. Didn't fix it. Then it became a doorstop for about a year, and now it's my Minecraft server. So that I take it back. Then maybe it's the modern times.
Yeah, it's almost like hardware has gotten on the rapid release cycle.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
It's tough, to get things working on the first try.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness Windows Phone is reliable and is. Wait a minute. Why are you giving me that
enough
shifty?
About you, Leo. Let's talk about Mary Jo.
Shifty look, Mary Jo Foley. She's giving me a shifty look.
Yeah, I'm just going to hold something up here.
Oh, Nexus. Oh, burn.
But hold on. I'm only test driving this. It's not my new phone. I still have a Windows phone. But Paul last week loaned me this.
Don't you dare throw me under this bus.
I'm throwing you under the bus.
Can I just say that's a 5X? I think you'd have a better experience with the 6P, which is their higher end. Better battery life, and then many people report problems. In fact, Jason Howell, who used a 5X, reported a lot of problems with the 5X.
So I'm a really interesting test case on this because I have never used an Android phone before ever.
At all? Oh, well, you should. Just if not, just to see what's out there, right?
Right. I mean, I never did because I'm like, you know what? I write about Microsoft. Paul on his site writes about other companies compared to Microsoft, but I really just write about Microsoft. So I'm like, I don't really need to try a bunch of other stuff. But I've been worried about Windows Phone. And though I'm a stalwart member of the 1%.
That's kind of like worrying about Generalissimo Francisco Franco.
Yes, he's still dead.
So
I'm worried about his future health.
Yeah. I just, I want to be prepared in case anything happens. And I just popped my Verizon SIM right in here and said, let me dive right in and see how it is. So for a week, I've been using it.
What do you think?
I think there's some things about it I really like, and then I totally miss the user experience of Windows Phone, especially the tiles.
Yeah,
totally miss the tiles.
Yep.
Like looking at these little icons on here that aren't updating in real time, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
You got to use widgets. That's just because you haven't put on enough widgets.
Widgets.
Oh, see,
So,
Paul, you didn't give her any instructional.
No, he didn't.
He didn't
give me any. Right. I wanted to just see how I would use it.
If you use it like an iPhone, it's just an array of icons, you can use Android like an iPhone. But it also has widgets, which actually are superior to tiles in terms of No, because they have actual information. For instance, here's the New York Times. That's a widget, so I don't have to launch the app.
Will this work for me if I don't use any Google services, which is how I'm using this?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so the problem with widgets is that they're not universal or consistent across apps.
Absolutely, that's true.
Apps have to support widgets, right? So, for example, I don't even remember the name of it. Whatever weather widget I'm using on Android obviously supports different size widgets, and so that's kind of a neat widget. You'll have to look and see what widgets are available for the apps you're using, right? If any. Right. And the way you do that is the same way you would change the wallpaper or whatever. You just press and hold on an empty part of the home screen. Yep. Something will come up, and one of the choices will be widgets, and then you can kind of scroll through. And they're very rigid. They can't be resized. Like every widget comes in a certain
they can be resized. So the advanced users don't use the built-in launchers. One of the nice things you can do on Android that you can't do on any other phone is you don't have to use the stock desktop. There are many choices out there. I use something called Nova, which does let you resize widgets, overlap widgets. Furthermore, there are many widget standalone widgets. So for my weather and time, I don't use a widget based on the clock, built in with the clock app. I use an app called Chronos.
That's just a widget.
That's just a widget, and some of the widgets are very sophisticated. So,
because for something like that, you're just looking for the time.
It depends. It depends what you're. What I would do is think about what you liked about the tiles, what information you wanted, and then you can almost certainly find an analog.
Look, I never really. I don't do much with widgets beyond the weather.
Wizards. Right.
Wizards, yeah. But I'm curious to see whether there are any. Microsoft widgets that are.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
See,
so here's what I use. So right away, the first thing I put on this phone was Outlook, right? Because that's what I use, and I put Microsoft apps on here basically. So that's what I use, and I really don't use the Google apps. So when I looked under the Google tile, I'm like, the only thing I use there are Maps. That's about it.
Yep. Yeah.
And Chrome. I use Chrome too, but. Otherwise, my screen is all Microsoft. I immediately connected to my OneDrive, put Outlook on there, and just kind of loaded it up with Microsoft.
There's no Outlook widget, unfortunately.
One might argue that the best Microsoft experience is not on Windows phones, but on iOS and Android, right?
Yeah. Oh, the Outlook app on Android and iPhone is way better than the Mail app on Windows 10. Way better.
Yeah, the Outlook app, I had written about it, I had read about it, and I had never used it till now. And now I only want to use this. I don't want to use the other Outlook anymore.
It's hard to actually go back to the Windows 10, Windows Mobile, whatever Mail app. Yeah. Yep.
I'm trying to think what else. I like the camera. I think the camera, I know it's 12 megapixels, but it's taking very good pictures, especially in low light. Yep. What else am I using right now?
Untap is working.
Untapped works well. Yes. I can verify that.
Successfully check and bear.
Eventually, see, Android is a very deep OS, deeper than either iOS or Windows Phone. I mean, that's why some people love it, some people hate it. And so a lot of becoming adept at Android is much like becoming adept at Windows. It's a long process because there's a lot of, you go deeper and deeper. For instance, eventually you'll start using Google Now and OK Google. And
I wonder if I would.
I don't think so, Leo.
I never use Cortana pretty much.
Yeah.
So
well, Google Now is not just speech. Google Now is also, press and hold the home button. Yeah. And you're going to start to be impressed by the amount of.
I don't know that Mary Jo will ever get into that, but it's fair to say that the Google Now stuff is amazing and is kind of creepy amazing. And it's the type of thing, you might have seen the things in Cortana on your phone where it says, hey, it's probably time to leave. Because you have something in your calendar. Like Google Now does that too, but Google Now will also say things like, you should go a different way because there's traffic or an accident.
Yeah, traffic's not so good. It's going to take you 8 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like it really is this kind of artificial intelligence thing. It's really impressive.
Right.
I understand that you are not necessarily ready for that step.
Well, but also, I don't drive.
Yeah,
but
I'm just using that.
But you fly. I mean, having your QR code for your ticket pop up when you arrive at the airport, things like that are nice. However, it may not be the right phone for you. I mean, the nice thing about Windows Phone is it is more like what you see is what you get. This is how it works. You know, you don't spend a lot of time tweaking it.
No.
Yeah.
I that's what I really like about it. Like,
Right.
I'm not somebody who really wants to tweak my phone. I'm
Right.
like, it just works. It's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I do
Android's
think the
probably
Windows-
not for you, you know, frankly, because
Yes. Although
No, I mean,
I'm enjoying it.
it is the
I'm
most
liking
like Windows,
trying
you know?
it out.
is it? Yeah, like Windows on the desktop. Yes, that's true.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And
So yeah,
especially in the
I'd
sense
say a
that you
weekend.
went into
I'm liking it. It's not making me think I'm going to abandon Windows Phone yet. But if Microsoft ever ends up canning Windows Phone, who knows? One day I'll at least be ready.
Well, and I think you should use it because I think you should experience Microsoft's mobile apps.
Yeah. Yep. It's very good for trying out mobile apps on other platforms. Very good for that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, as you say, Outlook, you can't experience Outlook properly on a Windows phone.
Right. Not this Outlook, not the
so
new
weird,
Outlook
right?
mobile.
I mean, but yeah.
Yeah. I'll say another thing I've noticed, which is kind of weird. I really like that on Outlook mobile on Android, when an email comes in, it renders correctly, because on Windows Phone, it almost never does. Isn't that crazy? Like,
Wow.
it almost never does.
That seems like a kind of
either the
fundamental
colors are wrong
feature.
or it can't be displayed in my email client. I'm like, what?
It's
I don't
funny
know.
too when you go in the store, there are actually apps.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the closeout sale at Zayre's on the last week it was open or something. You know,
I do have to say, I feel like Mary Jo is kind of a natural iPhone user as opposed to.
Oh man,
Android
are you
user.
kidding?
So by the way, I completely agree with that. I mean it. Like she doesn't like Apple, as she'll tell you,
I don't.
for whatever reason, which I also kind of get. But I feel like if you could spend time with an iPhone and doing what you're doing now, running the Microsoft apps, I have a hard time believing you wouldn't want the
Yeah,
iPhone.
me too. I feel like
I really do.
That's really the.
I don't have
That's
an
the
iPhone
phone
anymore.
for, again, like people who just want it to work, and I don't want to spend a lot of time and energy with
Right.
it. Most iPhone users really kind of just use it as out of the box experience, and that's that.
Yeah.
Which is, you sound like you, Mary Jo, to be honest.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, she can put her Microsoft apps on there and everything. The camera's great. There's not a lot of baloney going on there. I mean, it's like Leo said. I mean, it works. It works well out of the box.
Yeah. I think my chances of becoming an iPhone user are probably like below 1%.
Oh, but you would love it, and then you would become an iPhone and Apple fanatic, and then
I don't think
you'd
I would.
become one of
No,
Wow.
I think
It's like
I think
Rosemary's
that's just
Baby or something.
I of late, frankly, for a while, I did recommend Windows Phone for first-time smartphone users, but just out of a kind of fatherly sense of duty, I don't really want to push somebody in that direction anymore. So I do, you know, as much as I love Android, I do push people to iPhone mostly because it's the default. It's become, much as Windows was for all of the 90s, the default experience.
Yeah, that's fair, and it's recognizable and familiar to most people. I think the Nexus 6P in particular and the 5X are excellent. The Nexus experience is great. It's as good as Android's ever been, but it's still not quite iPhone kind of quality.
No, it's for tweak, for people who like to tweak.
Yeah.
What do you guys recommend as a Twitter client for me?
Twitter.
Because
I use Twitter.
the Twitter app is so horrible.
It is horrible, but it's the Twitter experience, and I'd say TweetDeck, except they don't keep that up anymore.
Right.
I just use Twitter.
Talon is I mean, there are third-party, decent, not as good as on the iPhone, but there are decent third-party apps. Talon is the one if you're not going to use the Twitter default. But I end up using Twitter default because Twitter changes the Twitter experience.
I know.
And the third-party apps often do not. For instance, if they're going to modify the timeline from chronological,
Right, which is
algorithmic.
great. I'm glad that I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's why I like on Windows Phone, Tweetium is definitely my favorite app.
Yes.
And it's great that if you're using those third-party clients, you don't have to put up with whatever Twitter wants you to be forced to
I, on
use.
the other hand, feel compelled to see what Twitter's up to because
I do too, actually.
I'm actually a little miffed at Twitter because it turns out that some high follower verified users are not getting the same experience. So I don't get ads, which I didn't know until somebody said, "Where's the ads?" There's no ads. And I don't think I'm getting the same
supposed to
algorithmic
be
feed.
ads?
Yeah, you probably have too many followers to get ads. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think that's really wrong of Twitter to have a different experience. Facebook's doing that too now with Facebook mentions. They have a velvet rope.
You know, this stuff that they're doing is, and like Facebook is doing, reminds me of the Microsoft overthinking stuff from about 10, 15 years ago, where they try to sort of anticipate your needs and then provide you with stuff. That stuff always just doesn't work. And I use Twitter, maybe a little differently than some people. I use it for very specific reasons. I don't want moments. I don't want news stuff that I don't, I don't like it to be curated like that. But
I know.
Yeah, I guess they want to make money or something. So.
Right. So yeah, a weekend. I'd say I'm happy with it. I'd say if Microsoft could somehow get Verizon to do a Windows Phone for me, I would stick with Windows Phone right now, even through the tough times of being one of the 1%.
Yeah, if it was a new phone, sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Why in heaven's name they're not just is beyond me, but get ready. I mean, this is, look, when stuff goes downhill, it goes downhill fast. And, it's the broken window philosophy that Giuliani changed New York, right, by micro-policing and putting more guys on the street and by fixing, if it was a broken window, we fix it. And the theory being that if you pay attention to little things, everything works better. But it goes the other way. You start allowing squeegee men and broken windows and graffiti. The whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. And I hate to tell you, but Windows Phone has squeegee men, broken windows, and graffiti.
It is literally hell in a handbasket.
It's literally going downhill. And when it goes, it accelerates. It's like a,
I do sort of think it is accelerating. I do. It's funny, the sales figures from last quarter, it on one level maybe shouldn't have been surprising, but it's always kind of tough to see it in very plain language, and a lot of people freaking out. I think it spins into its own little black hole of despair.
Well, when Mary Jo Foley's using an Android phone, then I know. Despair.
Testing an Android phone.
I got to say, more and more when we interview people from Microsoft and go to Microsoft, you see so many people from Microsoft not using Windows phones. And if they're not using their own phones, okay.
Yep. And they can justify that by saying, we make apps for these other platforms. And blah, blah, the same reason you or I might say, well, Microsoft makes these apps for these other platforms and stuff.
Actually, I feel bad for you, Mary Jo, because you've been in a lovely bubble.
Yes.
And the problem is now that there is no perfect phone. This is the true factor of it.
That's
and
true.
people like Paul and I are constantly kind of oscillating between different platforms because we keep seeking that perfect phone, and there isn't one.
It's always ultimately disappointing.
Yeah.
And then you kind of you go back. And I was just telling Mary Jo, people, especially during this time, have been saying, well, I know you still have Windows Phone, but if Windows Phone goes south, what are you going to do? And what do you blah blah blah. And I use all three platforms regularly, and I was sort of thinking about almost formalizing it, saying this week I'll use iOS, next week I'll use Android, next week I'll use Windows Phone. I'll keep switching like that because ultimately for me, it doesn't make sense for me to. I'm not going to adopt the iPhone. Something's going to happen tomorrow in Android that I need to be part of. Something Microsoft related or whatever. Things are happening on Windows Phone. There was a new build of Windows 10 Mobile today. I need to keep up on that stuff. And so it's kind of hard. At some point, I don't think there's any end game for someone like me.
I know, it's depressing.
Yeah.
But I mean
it is.
I don't want to bore people because that's our problem. It's a unique problem. And there's somebody in the chat room saying, I'm depressed by this. Kevin KC says, I like my Windows Phone. And no one here is saying there's not anything wrong with Windows Phone.
No.
Yep.
You just have to be ready.
People get very emotional.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mary Jo. What was that?
I mean, they can't sustain this forever. There's gonna be a point when people at Microsoft say, okay, do we pull the plug or not? Is going to be that day.
This is I remember last July I said July 2016 might be that day. I mean, if you look at what they did last year and then you kind of take it into account what's going to happen over the next year. I mean, what is next July, this July now? What does that look like? It could be any time. It could not be this year. It's hard to say. It's weird. in some ways, it's like anything. I mean, it's weird being in this limbo because you'd have to be delusional to think that this thing hasn't failed, but it's still being kept in the market, sort of. And it's hard. You know, it's...
It's like BlackBerry owners must feel. And you know, it's an interesting kind of...
well, you know what, though?
Cul-de-sac in technology.
With BlackBerry, it was sort of like Nokia when they adopted Windows Phone. You may not agree with what they decided, but they've sort of said what they're going to do, you know? And so with BlackBerry, we know that Android is the future. Someone just said that last week or whatever. There'll be more BlackBerry-based Android phones. You know, with Nokia, you may have wanted them to stick with Symbian or go in some other direction, whatever it was, but they chose Windows Phone. And at least there was a certainty to it. You know, this is what's happening. I think the hard thing with Windows Phone right now is there is no certainty.
Yeah.
Look how small she is. She's so cute.
Why am I so small?
I don't know.
That's we're showing the
Android?
respective market share of Windows Phone.
That's the shrinking market share.
I'm
Can
one
you
of
make
the
her voice squeaky when she talks?
Anybody who's been covering technology long enough has been in your position. I remember how much I loved BOS and how sad I was to see that die. And I remember how much I loved the WebOS, you know, and the Pre was an amazing OS.
WebOS was terrible for me because I loved it in an abstract sense. When they announced that John Rubinstein got on stage and did all that stuff, I was like, this is it.
Yep.
And then I went to, I don't know, CS probably, I think it was a Showstoppers event. I got my hand on that first device. Remember, it was T-Mobile.
Underpowered, yeah.
And it was so clearly underpowered. It needed 1 more megabyte of RAM or whatever it was. It was just,
they killed it.
You wanted to love it. And it was so beautiful and broken, you know? Those things are the toughest. You know, Amiga falls into this category,
Amiga,
obviously.
yeah, you were an Amiga
OS2 does in some ways.
OS2, same thing, you're right.
It's hard. These almost could have beens, you know? They're tough.
And by the way, in many of these cases, these were superior technologies. So this is not to say that Windows Phone isn't good. It's not unusual.
Oh, no, it's listen, like Mary Jo said, the user experience is fantastic, and you do miss it when you're used to it when you go to Android or iOS. I do every time. I do miss the live tile stuff. I love that stuff.
You know what this feels like? It feels like a 12-step meeting.
Yep, you're right.
We're helping
now,
Mary
instead
Jo.
of talking other people off the cliff, you can talk me off the cliff. You know, the more we talk about this, the more depressed I'm getting.
No. You know, but it's going to be okay because life goes on.
Okay.
And, you know,
because Android.
Just God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
I have a coin, Leo, that I'd like to give you on the 1-year anniversary.
It's a support group for Mary Jo Foley.
Yeah.
We've been there. Mary Jo, we've been where you are. And I just want you to know it gets better.
Does it?
And you know, I got to say, I don't know what Microsoft can or should do right now, right? Because it's too early for them to show us a Surface phone, if that exists. It's too early. But they need to throw us something to say,
maybe
guys,
that's not going to matter, though, right? I mean, what if the Surface phone is the most beautiful phone ever made? What if it's beautiful?
I know.
So what?
If it's beautiful, then
what if
it still runs Windows Phone apps?
What if it's beautiful and it's running Android underneath a Windows Phone shell?
Nah.
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. I'm talking about Surface.
Right. I don't know. Listen, as a Windows Phone fan, I've spent the last 5 or 6 years now talking with people and listening to people say, all this thing needs is, and it was on day one, it was copy and paste, and then it was some other thing, and then it was, oh, Nokia's going to do it, and oh, no, Windows 8, oh, that's going to be it. No, you know, we've kind of existed that way for a long time, and I think some people still are in that mode, thinking Surface Phone's going to do it, Continuum's going to do it. Continuum and x86 absolutely is what's going to put it over the top. None of those things are going to help Microsoft beat Android or iOS. None of them. Sorry.
I'm telling you, they could make a... remember, one of the great features of Android is you can use any shell, any launcher you want.
Yeah.
Make a Windows Phone launcher that's indistinguishable, has tiles, the whole thing.
Sure.
Run Android in the background. No one has to know. But you'll have all the apps.
Little secret.
Yeah, but you'll have all the apps. Now, of course, Android developers will have to have some sort of tile functionality, but that could be just like doing a widget.
Right. Or you target, you know, Android can target, I mean, UWP lets them write Android apps too, and not just Windows Store apps.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Doesn't,
like if a developer could use, well, it wouldn't be
we're
UWP,
abandoning.
but-
Yeah, we're abandoning Windows Phone, Mary Jo. Don't you know?
No, I mean,
Well,
if you
I know
get,
what she's saying. There's a universal app platform. I do
Right,
think
universal
supporting
app,
it on
sorry.
Android makes sense, and that you can just bring the whole.
You could
UI
support it
over.
on
I don't-
Android, huh?
Yeah, I think that there's
Maybe
some
that's what they did
sense
with the
to that.
bridge. They said we were going the wrong direction.
Yeah,
The bridge should
it
go
was a
that
one-way
way.
bridge, and it was going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Chris Capocella's
Well-
going.
Well, listen, so I don't know if it's in the notes. It might. Okay, there's an interesting post on my blog today that I don't think is in the notes, but it's a guy who used to be a designer at Microsoft. He had previously did a Reddit AMA where he talked about why Microsoft dropped the Metro user experience and adopted the hamburger menu, and he really explained what was going on there. He just wrote another post about the last thing he worked on at Microsoft, which was the design of Office Mobile, and how you have the Office as kind of a brand, and then you have these platforms like Windows Phone, big Windows, Android and iOS. And how do you design a user experience that makes sense on each device? And where do you take on the platformness of the thing, and where do you take on the brandness of the thing, and what makes the most sense? And I think this kind of relates to this notion of if Microsoft were ever to adopt Android, that there is you can sort of imbue this thing with the essence of the brand, and it sort of doesn't matter what's underneath. And I think to anyone using Office Mobile on a device, like a phone or a small tablet, I mean, ultimately, you're running Office. And that's the important thing. And I think that to Microsoft, and especially in the scope of how things have gone with their devices, it literally is the important thing.
Bingo.
Yeah. Even if Microsoft does ultimately what Google does with the Nexus program, and like say Surface Phone is like the Nexus, I think that would be interesting enough to keep some people in the fold. It would be the fans. It would be people who wanted the pure experience or whatever. But I think that could. It's not like it's going to be this miracle cure, but it would be something to sustain people who really want to stay on the platform.
Yeah. Nexus probably doesn't sell all that well compared to...
Right.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't, which I find tragic. And I think, Leo, you'd agree. You look at things like Moto and the Moto X, those devices, how awesome that stuff is. And
they had an opportunity.
It's always weird when things that are awesome don't sell.
Yeah. That's another good one. You know what? Moto X, that's sad.
Yeah.
And now Lenovo's Lenovoing it, and it's going to be junk.
I think they're killing the Motorola brand, but I guess they're going to keep the Moto brand, I think.
Yeah, but they're going to Lenovo it. They already are.
They're going to Lenovo it. Yep.
God, has this become a depressing show?
No, it's not depressing.
No, it's not.
It's not, because I got to say, I'm very impressed with the Microsoft apps on Android.
Yeah.
Yep. It makes me say, okay,
over there.
if anything happens to Windows Phone, at least I can live in my bubble on this phone.
Yeah.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
And I knew, like, because
Shining
Mary
bright.
Jo, I think, tries to use Mail and Calendar on Windows 10, even on a computer.
I do.
And I'm sure that's a struggle,
Yeah, it's been getting really good lately.
Okay. Well, but Outlook on the phone is awesome. And it's hard not to look at that and think, guys, seriously, make this happen on Windows.
Yeah.
It's more like Outlook, that the real Outlook, than any other mobile app. I mean, it's got everything in one place. It's it's nice.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe we'll get there.
Everything is beautiful.
Kumbaya.
Let's take a break. We're going to come back with more. There is Windows 10 news and lots more to talk about with Paul Thurrott. Mary Jo Foley. Our show today, though, brought to you by the great folks at ZipRecruiter, who are helping those of you who are in the position of hiring to do a better job. That hire is the most important thing you do at a company, because the company is what? It's made up of its people. It's made of people. So getting the right person in the position really makes a difference. Getting the wrong one really makes a difference. So I mean to add to your burden. I mean, as a business owner, this is the tough job. And maybe if you're a sole proprietor and you're doing this and 18 other things, it's the job you don't want to spend a lot of time on. That's why ZipRecruiter is so great. You post there once, it goes to 100+ job boards, plus all the social networks, LinkedIn and Twitter, and eBay classifieds, places you might not even think about. That way you get more candidates. In fact, you're instantly matched to candidates from over nearly 6 million current resumes. So you'll post once, and in 24 hours, the candidates will be rolling in. And incidentally, not rolling into your inbox or calling you on your phone. They come into the ZipRecruiter interface. So you don't mind getting a lot of candidates. It's very, very easy to screen out the ones that just don't meet the needs, rate the rest, and hire the best one fast, sometimes within just a few days. 400,000 businesses use ZipRecruiter, and you can try it right now. Free. Do the right thing. Hire the right person fast and make your life better and easier and your company better. Dan, who heard about it, he said, quote, "The hardest part about running a business when you need to hire that new person is you've got to spend extra time recruiting exactly when you're short-staffed. But with ZipRecruiter, I've got quality candidates within 24 hours of posting a job. ZipRecruiter's website makes this process so much faster by letting me manage candidates in one place. ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. That'll let them know you heard about it on Windows Weekly. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. ZipRecruiter.com/Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. Time to actually talk about Windows on Windows Weekly.
It had to happen eventually.
Eventually. Put it off as long as we could. Windows 10, new Windows Insider Ring.
Yeah, so this is revealed in a post that says, announcing Windows 10 Mobile Insider Preview build, whatever the build number is. So in other words, it's about Windows Phone. And there's no new features in this build of Windows Phone. But then at the bottom it says, hey, by the way, we're also doing this other thing. And that other thing is the thing. Like it's the real news. So once again, Microsoft, congratulations. So it's kind of interesting. So they have a fast and a slow ring, as we know, right in the Insider program for PC and for mobile. They've adjusted the way these things work so that the fast ring people are getting builds much more frequently. In fact, the last two came out less than a week apart. So, kind of fastest ever. And if you think about them speeding up the build process, you could sort of make the case that the slow ring is now operating somewhat like the fast ring used to, and that maybe they need something underneath that. Or you could also make the case they did this for mobile in particular, because on mobile, obviously we have the issue with the carrier blocking. And there may be people who want the shipping version of the OS but want to make sure they were up to date on that. So they've added this release preview ring. I don't know why they didn't just call it slower ring. Anyway, the way I understand it is, it's for people who want to get early access to the updates for the current branch being 15.11, being the latest publicly released non-beta, non-preview version of the respective OS. Also for Microsoft applications and for drivers, right, which is kind of the firmware type stuff on mobile. Microsoft says that this will incur minimal risk, and it's obviously they want people still to provide feedback. So they basically just added a ring, if that makes sense, to the Insider program. Am I missing anything? I think that's all.
No, you know what? I thought this announcement was going to be the Ludicrous ring that was rumored forever.
Yeah, it's a slower ring. Right. So it's not faster.
It's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
It's the cautious ring.
I think fast has become ludicrous. That's what I mean. Like, I don't see how they could add something faster than fast.
You could add insane and ludicrous, just like on the Tesla.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken.
So I got my new Tesla. I didn't get ludicrous, but I did get insane mode. So, but apparently I'm told I didn't even need to get that it's plenty fast.
Yeah, there's still,
without any of that.
You actually break through some G-forces.
You're already pinning your head to the back of the seat, so no need to go any farther. I was really pleased to see that they're giving more detailed release notes. I wish Apple would do this. This is nice.
Yes. Very nice.
They just started doing it. So
kudos,
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. They told us when was that? October, right?
October.
They said
we were in Vegas when this happened.
Yeah. They were telling us, you know what, we're going to give people more. We're going to take a stab at giving people more information about what is in the updates to Windows 10. And so they originally thought they would do that before the end of last year. But yesterday was the first day they did it. And if you go to this new Windows 10 update history page, I actually think they give quite a bit of information. It's what users need to see, I think.
It's the exact opposite of what they used to do.
Yeah.
You know?
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's telling you in fairly good detail about what's in the updates in terms of what was fixed, what's new. And, one person said to me on Twitter yesterday, yeah, but who cares? We still have to take the update. Who cares what's in it? But I still want to know what's in it.
I always want to know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess
And
they
I
didn't want
People
to
are waiting because you're waiting on a fix in many cases, right?
Right.
Right.
And it's so nice to read the list and be like, there it is. There it is.
Yep.
They did it.
But so this
I
is
feel
not
like this is the first
information that
time.
we didn't have before? I mean, didn't
They
they?
didn't.
They never provided this information.
Nope.
Even if you went
Literally,
to the notes
the title of this update was what you got before. And in Windows Update, if you click more information, it gave you the title of the update again.
Oh,
That was all it ever said.
that's the Apple way. Yep.
Yeah, really lousy. And this is, I think this is the first time in 20 years I have concrete evidence of them actually listening. Like, this is amazing.
No, this is great. It is great.
Yeah.
They also published, I have a link to it in the show notes, another page that's also really interesting, which is the Windows servicing page. So what this is historical and branch data for Windows 10 updates. So if you're on, say, the current branch for business or the current branch or the long-term servicing branch, you can click on the KB articles that go with each of the updates they made and see now what was in those.
This is for Office, not
Windows 10.
Oh, Windows 10.
Yep.
So I'm seeing the link I see was Office. No, I'm sorry. I must have.
Oh, sorry. It's
That's
right
the other
under.
one.
Yeah, it's right under the one. See where it says Windows servicing page?
Oh, yeah. Dummy.
A little
I
higher up.
clicked way down.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. There's so many pages now. We have so much new info, which
Too
is
much
great.
information, Microsoft. TMI.
TMI. Would you cut?
When are you
knock
going to
it
get
off?
the message? We don't need to
It's
know
awesome.
this stuff.
Windows 10 release information by servicing. What is servicing option?
So remember, we talked a lot about this last year. It's if you're on a different branch, it tells you how quickly you're going to get updates.
Yeah.
So if you're on the current branch, which is like what
CB.
most consumers are
Yeah.
on, you get everything right away.
Oh, by the way, speaking of which, Mary Jo,
Yes.
is it fair to say the only people that could be running 10.240, meaning the July 2015 version of Windows 10, are businesses that are on this one of these plans where they can slow down the rate of updates? Is that correct?
I
it should
believe
not,
so.
right?
I
There
do
couldn't be
believe
a
so.
consumer or an individual
I don't
that is
think so.
on that. Okay.
I
I didn't think so
believe-
either, but
I think they had to take it by now. I know there's a deadline for how long they can wait to take it, but I think it's fairly quick. And if you look at that chart for the build, it's called 10240, which is the July RTM release. It shows current branch for business, and long-term servicing branch can take it, but I don't think that if you're on the current branch right now, you could be on that. I'm not 100% sure of that though.
right.
Oh, there's some
Well, as an
guy who lived in a cabin that hasn't been online since July of last year, gets online. That's
Yes,
who.
yes,
I mean, there are people who don't update all the time because they're not online or for whatever, or somehow they block it. I mean, I know you're supposed to if you get the upgrade, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, to continue to get the security updates, you have to be on the latest update, right? Because they're pushed out as cumulative updates.
I lost track of this, but I think somebody told me on Twitter yesterday or the day before that they were on 10.240 and had never been offered anything newer than that. And that doesn't seem
It seems
that's
odd.
a bug.
possible, unless it was a business computer.
Yeah, or that's a
that
bug.
seems weird.
I mean, I get calls still from people who said, the last update didn't work, so I can't go to the next update. I mean, that can happen still in Windows 10.
And then you
right?
realize they're running Windows 98 SE and they have no idea what's going on.
It happened a lot more in older versions of Windows. I don't know if it happens as much in Windows 10, but obviously because it's not going to go to the next update until it completes the first one. If the first one fails, you're blocked.
I mean, these days, it's more common to walk in the morning and log on your computer and it says, "Hi, your files are exactly where you left them." And you're like, what the
what?
just happened?
Yep.
Yeah.
It updated.
Love that error message. That reassuring message.
But I don't know where my files were before.
Right.
I don't know.
So yeah,
anyway,
good news on the update stuff.
Yeah, seriously. And this is, we complained about this. I really feel like this is absolutely necessary. And they could have just kind of mailed it in. This is really detailed release notes. It's nice.
Yep.
You know, we'll see if they maintain this over time. But
yeah,
I guess the question
really,
is,
really
why
surprised.
didn't they do this?
real. Yeah.
Clearly, somebody's been writing these all along.
Right.
That's the thing. Like,
So,
Well, the idea was
did they not?
they're trying to treat it like mobile, right? And
Right.
hey, on mobile, you don't get this information. You just get it and you take it.
Yeah, but
So I think
yeah.
oh,
I
you
know
take it.
they were thinking people would go with
Take
that
it.
model.
They
but
may have
people
also
push
thought if
back.
we're too explicit about what we're fixing, maybe bad guys will be more. I don't know. You think they're like
Don't make excuses for them, Leo.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I'm sure they mean well. Well,
By the way, I've updated my Surface Book,
and
and it's
all
been
is
running perfectly for the last 2 minutes.
nice.
Excellent.
Victory.
Success.
Yep.
End show.
But don't worry, all your files are exactly where you left them,
Wherever that is.
wherever that might be. So the last build, what is the most 14.257? That's an insider
Right.
build, right? Fast ring,
Yep.
Ludicrous ring.
Yeah, well,
Right.
but the shipping version, the current branch version, whatever, didn't that just yesterday went to a new build?
But that's patch. Oh, not Patch Tuesday update. There's a new build. Update.
Well, it went out with Patch Tuesday, actually, right?
Yep.
It was yesterday. It's Leo. Seriously, we can't keep track of this anymore.
I know
They-
it really is getting.
We have
complicated.
complained so much that someone is rubbing their hands together and laughing because in doing exactly what we've asked for, these people have just made our lives impossible. You know? So, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, 107, we have it right here. 10586.107. Or as I would call it, the 107th attempt to get this build right.
So, if you're CB,
this is the
it would be
one.
104. But if you're on fast ring, it'd be 107. Is that right?
based on that chart, right?
I just did that to make Paul crazy.
No, the chart is like
The chart
super
says
crazy.
so.
too.
My ear is bleeding right now. I'll probably be
No,
okay.
but the one we're talking about, the 14257, that's Redstone, not Threshold, right? That's
don't try
the
to sort through this, Mary
test
Jo.
build.
Seriously. This is like, yes,
but all you
it
need
is.
to know about it is it's more of the same of what we've been getting, right? So they're doing a lot of things under the covers with the common core, which they call one core, doing some fixes, but there's nothing brand new that you'll see from an end user perspective. So if you have it, yeah, you've got the latest build, but there's nothing crazy in there like extensions on Edge or anything yet.
Right.
So it's out there. They fix some stuff.
You know, it's weird. Okay, so I rebuilt this Surface Book and I did updates. And I had been doing firmware updates, so all the firmware is updated. But I got I got the 1027 firmware update again.
So here's the thing. The problem is the word firmware, because I think when you hear that, you think,
It's a
I've just
firmware
updated the
update.
BIOS.
Right.
And that's not what it is.
Oh.
Firmware updates mostly, although that can happen too, by the way. I mean, you could get a UEFI, whatever they call it, firmware update. Really what those things are driver updates.
Oh,
And so when you reinstall the OS, if you reset the computer, you go back, you will reinstall the last firmware update, because I think they're cumulative, or the newer ones obviously supersede the older driver versions. It's really just drivers. For the most part.
okay.
They're just hardware.
Oh, because I want a firmware
I don't know.
update.
Firmware updates are terrible.
There are firmware updates in the world,
There can be. Yeah.
like, BIOS updates.
Although I can't remember the last time I got one on Surface. I just got one of those on an HP laptop.
Yeah, Apple does them all the time. Well, not all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I can't
you know
remember
that's
the
a
last time
firmware
I got
update because you have to reboot into this weird mode, and there's a
Into a DOS screen, and it
progress bar, and so it's like we can't do this in Windows. We got to do this.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
And don't unplug the computer. Seriously,
Yeah.
do not unplug the
Yeah,
computer.
do not. I do not.
Unless you feel like being without it for a couple of months.
Okay, good. Anything we should new in there that we should know about?
No, it was just a lot of bug fixes and things under the covers in that one. Nothing crazy.
Yep.
You don't want bugs under your covers, that's for sure.
I know you guys know about this page, but just in case, Surface Book Update History page has a list of system firmware updates. The latest one for Surface
Joe, if you go through that, look at the latest one for, any one of it. Doesn't matter which one, Surface Pro 3, Surface Pro 4. And if you look at the list of updates, you're not going to see anything about the firmware, right?
Well, look at the Surface Book one, though.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it can't happen. It does happen, but they're typically drivers,
Yeah, right.
Like a display driver, Wi-Fi driver, Bluetooth.
Surface Book dated 1/27. It says system firmware update on that page.
Yeah,
but that's the one. Okay, so it's not. I can tell you, because if it were, it wouldn't have been erased when I started over on the computer, right? But whatever they did, I had to do it again.
But they never to my memory have delivered them individually. So
there may be some drivers
set of updates,
and
so it's possible if your firmware was up to date, you just didn't get it.
Yeah.
Because that was already applied, but you still got the other driver updates.
Ever the voice of reason.
Well, I mean, it's just based on, I look at the stuff every month. It's just, I'm not saying, obviously they sometimes do deliver actual firmware updates, but they call these things firmware updates, and mostly they're just driver updates.
Yeah. All right.
Listen, the scope of Microsoft's problems, calling them on this is not on.
No, I'm not calling you on this.
So, just I agree with you. It's confusing, but let's fix Skype first. So, let's move on to the big problem.
Hey,
wait. There's a little breaking news item related to all this from Windows Central.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Windows 10 mobile update history page is now there too.
Windows 10 mobile update history page. Well, I guess
so. Obviously, the companion site to what we were just talking about, but for mobile.
Right.
Nice.
So that's good. I was wondering if they were going to do that. So yes.
Okie dokie.
Yep. Thanks, Joel Rollins. He brought that out on Twitter. Nice.
Thank you, Joe.
Can you send me a link to that?
Yep.
Thank you, Joe. All right. Shall we move on, kids?
Why not?
Yeah.
Paul has it's time for another Paul Thurrott rant of the week.
Why do you hate Microsoft
A letter
so much, Paul?
from the editor.
Yeah. Well, no, I've gotten some questions about this stuff recently, and I notice other people are writing about it too, which is that we've reached the 6-month mark of the 1 year that Windows 10 is free. What happens when that year expires, right? There have been people speculating that despite the protestations, Microsoft's going to go to a subscription plan and, whatever. That's not going to happen. I do speculate, and I do recommend that Microsoft not get rid of this free Windows 10 upgrade. I think that Windows 10 should always be free as an upgrade, because the thing you're upgrading from is always a supported version of some previous OS. And when you think about the way that Windows 10 is upgraded, like we've been talking today, we can't even keep track of it, is so many of these upgrades, that it's the same scheme.
Yeah.
Supported OS, you get the free upgrade. It behooves Microsoft to allow people to upgrade later for free as well, because the ultimate goal is still the same. They want to have the latest, they want everyone on Windows 10, the latest version of Windows 10. And so if those people, for whatever reason, if they're businesses or individuals and they want another year or two to upgrade on existing hardware, it's still better to give it to them for free, right? Everyone buys Windows, right? At some point, you're going to buy Windows. You get it with a new PC. That's the 99.9% of the people, I bet, get it with a new PC. You just bought Windows. That device now qualifies for free upgrades going forward. That's the Windows 10 scheme. It should just grandfather everybody in.
Yep.
There's no point. If they do charge for Windows 10 upgrades, they will just ensure that no one else will ever upgrade. That will be the end of the upgrades.
So when we talked about this, you seem to think that they meant it when they said it'll stop being free on July 29th, 2016. But now you're thinking
I think they did mean it. But I think what they did had the desired effect. Hundreds of millions of people have successfully upgraded to Windows 10 and are using it every day, and it works. Yeah. That's great. This is the highest success rate for an upgrade ever. It's off the charts. And they could reach their billion goal by just selling new computers for the next couple of years, I guess. But I think that you still have out in the world some hundreds of millions of people running Windows 7 in particular, and then to a lesser degree Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and a couple of Windows XP scragglers, a couple million. I mean, millions of them as well. This is not the time. There's no revenue to be generated here. Just let them. It's better for everybody, for them and for Microsoft, that they be allowed to upgrade to Windows 10 for free. That's it. There's no. I don't understand. I don't see how anyone could argue otherwise. I will not listen to those arguments. And I really think that Microsoft should just do the right thing and not worry about it. I think they'll wait.
You do.
To announce that or whatever. I'm just speculating anyway. But
I don't think they'll announce it. Like I saw people saying they should announce this now, but of course they're not going to because they're trying to get you to move, right? So the uncertainty is what keeps you, right?
That's exactly right. They're not going to announce it now, but I think when July comes, they're going to say, guess what, world? Here's a big present for everybody. Windows 10 is free.
I think you're right. It only makes sense.
Still won't be free.
It's the only way to do it.
Won't be free for pirates still. Won't be free for enterprises.
Of course. And by the way, I say this knowing full well the history of this stuff. You can go back and look at temporary free upgrades or temporary cheap upgrades. They had temporary deals on like a Windows 7 family pack, as I recall, where you got 3 copies of Home Premium, I think, for $150. It was a great deal at the time. And at the time I said, they're going to keep doing it. They'll keep doing this. There's no way they get rid of this. And then they get rid of it. We're moving into a new world. This is Windows updated as a mobile product. It's Windows updated as a cloud service. This is you don't go back to the old way. Midstream, 1 year in, you don't say, it's a mobile OS, it's a cloud OS, but we're going to handle upgrades like we used to handle things back into Windows XP days. That makes no sense. There's no way they do that.
Right.
By the way,
and what's spurring all this?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what's spurring all of this talk now is there have been some reports on a site that we don't let our friends read. Friends don't let friends read.
Yep.
And they keep saying, you know what, you guys, it's going to be paid, and you better, Microsoft's going to really, screw everybody over in July.
That's what they do.
It's
those guys
making it up. Yep. Making it up as they go along.
Sure. The best part is they can just republish the same story every week and pretend it's something new happened. Yep. This week and how Microsoft's going to screw you. I noticed the Windows 10 mobile update history web page is actually blank.
It is.
So that actually is kind of humorous, by the way.
It's there, at least.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there, but nothing's there yet.
Right.
So,
and I guess while I'm on my soapbox, I'll keep this one short.
One more.
I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I guess I like to I like the feedback. I don't know. Someone's actually, a couple of people pointed me to it was a Windows Store developer blog post, like a building apps for Windows, I think is the name of the blog, where they were they're still trying to show that like the Windows Store in Windows 10 is way more successful than it was with Windows 8. And I don't buy this, And I looked at this post and I thought, my God, they actually provide a lot more information here than they ever have. And it actually proves my point. It's not any more successful than it was on Windows 8. And I feel like apps, on Windows Phone, like we were talking earlier with Mary Jo and her testing of Android, and to a lesser degree presentation, but let's just say apps, has always been the Achilles heel of this kind of modern Windows Store kind of experience, whether we're talking about Windows 8/Windows 10 or Windows Phone/Windows Mobile, that it is the availability and the quantity and the quality of apps and the presentation, to a lesser degree, of apps that is just dogging this thing. And it's a chicken egg thing. Like, I don't actually have a solution for this problem. I don't mean to suggest that the answer is easy and this is how you fix it. It's not. But it's a wasteland, and there are some exceptions. We just got that Tomb Raider game, which is kind of cool. That will be slightly less problematic to me if there was a lot of games like that at some point. But today we still have the one awesome game. And it really highlights the kind of disparity between the Windows world and Android and iOS, And they really need to make, the way I worded it was, they need a store that's as good as Windows 10 is, because Windows 10 is awesome. But the store is really holding it back, especially on mobile, where you can't fall back on desktop apps. You can see it right there. So that's all.
By the way, Some good news for that. Apparently, a dev has been able to port an iOS app to a Windows phone in minutes.
Yeah. Allow me to dump all over that one, Joe. So it's another thing. A lot of people have been very excited by this, right? Microsoft has this iOS
bridge. Yeah.
This is not a representative app, unfortunately. It's an old app. It was originally a Flash app for the web.
Oy.
They ported it. The developer ported it to iOS at some point, and then it released the source code. And so anyone can go get the source code to this thing. They can push it through the iOS bridge. It requires no fixing of any kind because it doesn't use any iOS services. It's a perfect app to port. Yeah. You literally, the guy spends more time explaining how to configure Visual Studio.
Yeah.
It's called, what is it called? Jeez. It's called Cam. It's one of those perpetual motion games.
That's impressive, at least. It does something.
Yeah, it works. I mean, Cannonbolt.
Oh, Cannonbolt. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That was ported from ports that were ported.
Yeah, it's a port-to-port.
It's a port-to-port.
This is one of those things where, developer ports iOS game to Windows 10 in just 5 minutes is technically true and unfortunately proves nothing, other than that the basic stuff works. The reality is if you're an iOS developer looking to port to Windows 10, and you make an app of any amount of sophistication or a game, you're going to be using services that will require some form of massaging on the other end. There's no way around that. So I think this speaks to the fact that this thing's real. It can work. No one is going to have this good of an experience. You picked a good app.
Yeah.
But not a unpopular app, at least. I mean, it was... okay.
It's like early proof of concept, right? Isn't it showing Islandwood Bridge, blah, blah, blah.
And this wasn't done by Microsoft? This was just some guy?
Yeah, some guy from Australia.
I don't know. That's a good sign. It could be good. I don't know.
My cat sounds like all day long.
Let's take a break, come back, do more stuff. Paul and Mary Jo, Windows Weekly. The weekly talk yourself down off the ledge show. Surface Book, 10 minutes in, flawless.
4 hours of perfection.
I wish it was 4 hours, but maybe, you know what? Maybe that's all it took. I live in hope. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks. This was a frustration for me back in the days when I was a freelancer and had to invoice at the end of the month every month. And there were a couple of things that made it extra hard for me. One, I hate it. Well, it doesn't help. But two, I was invoicing Rogers. Well, I was invoicing a lot of people. Some of them, though, were in Canada, and I had to do it in Canadian dollars, and some were in America, and I had to do American dollars. And then I might even had some British pounds in there somewhere. And then, so I had to always do these conversions. And then, of course, I had to expense my flight and hotels and meals. So I had to keep receipts and then get them into it was just a pain in the butt. So much so that I would sometimes just not do it for months. And that wasn't very good because you don't invoice, you don't get paid. And then I found FreshBooks. This was 10 years ago, and I loved it. Small business accounting software designed for the non-accountant, for the freelancer, to save you time billing, to get you paid faster, on average 5 days faster. You'll be creating and sending invoices in minutes online. You can get paid up front. I wish we'd had this. This is great. You can request a deposit in FreshBooks from your clients, and then you don't have to cover costs out of pocket. You don't have to wait to the end of a project to get paid. FreshBooks is great for all businesses. Creative and marketing, business consulting, and legal services. If you bill by the hours, the FreshBook app will keep track of those hours, put it in the invoice. Oh, and by the way, you could take pictures of expenses, keep them in the app, and that makes it so easy getting the invoices. But if you're in the trades or home services, you're going to love this because if you actually can go create an estimate in the FreshBook app on your iPhone, or iPad, show your client the estimate, get their approval, do the work, Without leaving the premises, create the invoice easily on the iPad or iPhone, present it to the client, and then use their EMV card reader on FreshBooks to get paid. All in the same day. It's chip card enabled, so you could swipe the stripe or dip the chip. It is so cool. Easy, easy, easy peasy. So whatever your business, I want you to try FreshBooks free for 30 days. And if you ever need help, their award-winning FreshBooks rock stars are there to help you. Really nice guys. It was a revelation to me, and it's gotten better even still. FreshBooks.com/Windows. That way you'll get your 30-day free trial, and they'll know that you heard about it on Windows Weekly. Although if they ask you, put it in that, how did you hear about us section? Put that, if you would. Windows Weekly. FreshBooks.com/Windows. You're going to love it. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, we love them. We're talking Windows. And let's talk services. Services. Who wants to take this one?
I'll do OneDrive.
All right.
Although it's funny,
You can do all of them.
Paul alerted me to this last week because he was saying, you know what's weird? My OneDrive storage that I thought I had a grace period with has been chopped to 1 terabyte, and it wasn't supposed to be for a while.
Yep.
And so then right after he told me that, I started getting tons of people bombarding me saying, what is Microsoft doing? They told us we could keep our extra storage if we had Office 365 for a year. And now they already cut me to 1 terabyte. And what's worse is all the stuff I have above 1 terabyte is all read-only now, and I can't even touch it. It was a mistake.
Oh, thank goodness.
A bad one, given all the trouble we've been having with OneDrive. But yeah, it was a mistake. They acknowledged it when I asked them about it. And yesterday they said they fixed it. So if you are one of those people who saw your storage chopped to 1 terabyte early, you should check it again now because they say the quotas have all been restored. So
mine were.
Oh, thank goodness.
They were. Good.
Yeah, I knew they didn't delete any data. They just,
the
number
but
looked different.
Got people panicked because they were like, wait, this thing has just been one bad thing after another since they changed their mind on giving everybody unlimited storage.
Right.
And they don't need any more black eyes over it at OneDrive.
No, they do not.
No.
No, they do not. Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
What other services are there?
Oh, Office 365.
Okay.
So this was a funny one. Remember, we talked back in the fall about Microsoft coming out with Office 2016, the app, all the new apps for Windows. And at the time, Microsoft introduced this kind of staggered plan, very similar to what they're doing with Windows servicing. So they said, we're going to have this thing called Office Current Branch, Office Current Branch for Business. And then they said, and if you're a customer who's in some of these business plans, you're not going to get these Office apps if you're set to automatically update until February 2016. So even though Office 2016 came out last fall, a lot of people are just getting it now, this month, if they're a part of Office 365. So the reason is, again, because Microsoft is doing a similar plan where they're having different branches. So if your company is a company that is kind of holding off and using the current, what is the equivalent for the current branch for business with Office, you aren't getting those apps till now. Now, just to make this a little more confusing, because it's not confusing enough, the current branch for business for Office is no longer called the current branch for business. It's now called the deferred branch. So So on Windows, we're using current branch for business. On Office, we're now going to start using the current channel, and then, the current channel, the deferred channel, and then there's some other channels. So the word channel in Office is what you use instead of using branch.
I'm just so glad this is both consistent and less confusing than what we're doing.
I think the thing is, if you work in business, you actually like it when they change terminology frequently and for no apparent reason, because your company does too. So it just makes you feel, more like aligned. Like, oh yeah, Microsoft's as screwed up as my boss. And it just makes you happier. That's my theory.
I think they're just doing this to keep us busy.
I'll tell you where to go if you want this explained more clearly than I just explained it.
It's very Dilbert.
A guy named, which is easy to do,
yeah.
Tom Arbuthnot. Tom Arbuthnot. I'm probably killing your name. He does a blog called tomtalks.uk. TOMTALKS.uk. And he wrote all about this week. And he did a very nice job. Much nicer than I just did explaining that.
Well, he's English. They have a way with words.
Is that it?
Yes. Okay. Yes. And they also understand arbitrary changes for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
They're good at that. So it's very straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, one more service. Power BI.
Well, that's definitely your story.
Yes. Power BI, Microsoft's analytics and business intelligence service. They came out last week with a new feature that's actually very cool. It's called Publish to the Web. So if you have a visualization that you've done using Power BI, very easily you can publish that directly to the web. And it will be constantly updated as the data continues to update. So you'll have a web page with a very complicated graph that you've generated using Power BI, and it will just always be automatically updating all the time. Sounds really cool, right?
Yeah.
One problem. They didn't really, it's in preview right now. They didn't really lock it down security-wise. So if you look in the comments on their blog page about this, people are like, wait a second. I have all this private company data, and I can just see what's going to happen. My workers are going to start publishing this to the web, and I'm not going to know what's out there. And hey, here's all your financials out there on the web. And they're going to be automatically indexed for searches without us wanting them to be out there. Now, the good news here is Microsoft said, yes, we know that's an issue and that we're going to very soon, probably this week, lock that down. So if you're somebody who's testing out that public preview of Publish to the Web for Power BI, don't worry, they're going to lock it down, which they need to.
And here come the men in blue to lock you up.
Here they come.
Yeah. Ooh. And I saw an ad for Groove the other day, by the way.
Wait, what?
Our
No.
Groove?
Yeah, Microsoft Groove. It was like, I can't remember, not a TV ad.
No,
but
that would cost money.
Yeah.
What?
I saw like a web ad.
Like a web ad? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, look at them.
Yeah, look at them.
Look at them pretending it exists.
Anyway, let's talk about Groove. Another Groove acquisition.
This, by the way, Mary Jo should do this, but this is as convoluted as what she just talked about with channels on Office.
Oh, dear.
It is. It's crazy.
It is.
So what is it?
Okay, so last fall, Microsoft rebranded Xbox Music as Groove. We knew that.
Mm-hmm.
We also knew at the time that there was already an app in the store that was called the Groove Music Player that was not from Microsoft. It was from a company in Canada called Zycara. So a bunch of us at the time said to Microsoft, hey, did you buy this company, or are you like buying their brand, or what's going on? And they said, we don't have anything to say about that.
Yes, which means they did, and we are.
Months go by.
You've covered Microsoft too. You understand.
Months go by, and yesterday, Zycara blogs, the three founders blog on Medium, hey, Microsoft just bought us. Okay.
How about that?
Well, so then we tried to get more information. And at first, Microsoft wouldn't talk about this. And they said, we don't talk about acquisitions, which was kind of an odd comment.
Really?
Since they usually do.
Huh.
Really?
But
Because
then they...
Really? You don't talk about regulations surrounding such things, it seems like... Okay.
Why talk about
it
acquisitions?
Out, they just bought this. They bought the Groove brand. They bought Groove's technology. Groove is shutting down their app. But nobody else will comment. Groove is not allowed. Zycara is not allowed to comment, and Microsoft's not commenting on what happened, what they're doing with the technology, if anything.
What was Zycara?
When they bought them.
What did it do?
We don't know what's going on, basically.
And what is Zycara when it's at home? What do they do?
What do they do now? I don't know.
What did they do?
They're going to continue to exist.
They made this app called Groove.
They made an app called Groove. Maybe they just wanted to not get sued over the name.
Yeah. I mean, the other company owned the name. I think
Did
Microsoft
Microsoft license the name Groove from them?
I think they bought it.
Yeah,
And I think what basically just happened is these guys are now free with whatever Microsoft money they got to go pursue their dreams because they can do anything they want.
Right. Because they're now Groove millionaires.
It's sort of what Microsoft did to Real Networks,
right?
Except a smaller company.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
very strange.
Okay.
Right.
So was Groove suing them or anything?
We don't know. We don't know that. We don't know at all.
were testy letters exchanged?
I don't know.
Our theory is that they were communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple people said, hey, I know what my exit strategy is for my next company. I'm just going to make something called Groove since Microsoft bought Ray Ozzy's Groove, and then they bought this Groove. So why not?
They like the name.
They like the name.
Yeah.
We're going to create an app called Microsoft Movies and TV and just wait for the cash to come rolling in.
See what happens.
But now I understand why Microsoft didn't want to talk about it.
Yes.
Right. Because,
maybe they were maybe
litigation
negotiations were ongoing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They were haggling over the
they're haggling.
$275,000 they got or whatever. I don't know.
No. We don't know.
Well, there you go. Now we do. Not.
Now we do.
No.
Yep.
Sort of.
Not really. Yeah.
Okay. The mysterious. They bought Groove. And this all happened after Microsoft
Already had
created Groove. They didn't want another
well, I don't know. No,
Sky.
I think the Groove, this Groove app, it had a longer name. What was the full name? Do you remember?
The Groove something smart music app or something.
It was even in the music field, so that's why, you know, you can't.
They had been around, for years, I think, before Microsoft came up with its own Groove.
Interesting.
Typically when something like that happens, if you're Apple, you just kind of ignore it and don't worry about it, and then you get sued. And if you're Microsoft, you pretty much pay the other company.
Yeah.
And I think
it was
that's
called
what
the
happens.
Groove Smart Music Player. That was the name.
Yeah. Completely different from Groove Music. So
of course, not even close.
I don't see how anyone could confuse those things. I'm sure what happened when Microsoft announced, the Groove naming, we all did a Google search for Groove and found out there's already a thing called Groove.
Right.
Maybe
your own
they
store.
bought.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, now they have.
Now they have.
You'll notice none of the three people that are in that company are going to Microsoft.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
So it wasn't a.
Yeah. No, they didn't buy the company.
They didn't buy the company. Just want to make sure you got nothing we can get upset about. All right. And one more thing. I want an Elite controller. Where am I going to get one of them?
They have them. They're out.
Yeah. Do I need one?
No. You don't need one. But you know what else you don't need, Leo?
What don't I need?
A Tesla. And now you do have one.
Well, I wish I did have one.
You will.
I don't have one yet. Someday.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. But you understand that
I've ordered one. I've paid the money.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like need versus want.
Yeah.
Or no, need, want are the same thing. Need and want. Yes.
I want and I need a Elite controller. But will it make me a better gamer is, I guess, the good question.
Nope.
One should ask.
But it's beautiful and it feels awesome when you're holding it, and I love it, and I totally don't need it, and I don't care.
I don't care that I don't need it, and I don't care that I don't need it.
I'm positive it's had zero impact on my gameplay, but I don't care.
Really? Zero impact.
Because I'm awesome. I don't really need it.
You don't need that.
But
you're just good.
I think the way that I play, it hasn't had much impact. I think if I played a variety of games, I'd probably really play around with the configuration and all that. But I find myself just using it as I do a normal controller. I don't really screw around with any of this stuff. It's awesome. It's so awesome.
It's so awesome.
It is so awesome.
Do you love it in every way? Have you changed the pieces out or anything like that?
Yeah, just to test. And I've tried to use the paddles in the back. I just find that gets in the way. I have big, beefy, 8 hands, and it's hard for me to do anything delicate like that. I mean, I'm really just about exploding things, pretty much.
No, you're a brute.
Yes.
It's all about brute force.
In a game of Dungeons and Dragons, I would not be the wizard. I think is what I'm saying.
Or the sage, apparently.
No, nothing.
You'd be the barbarian.
Right. It would be the Schwarzenegger role.
Yeah. It's Thurrott the barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Paul, So that's really not an item. You just wanted to tell the world you have one of these. And
Well, I reviewed it. Oh,
you did review it. Okay.
I did review it.
And that's the conclusion you've come to.
You don't need it.
You don't need it, but you want it.
You don't need it. Yeah.
You might want it.
I made about 120 BMW M Series analogies in this article, so if you like that kind of thing.
Do you drive a BMW M Series, Paul?
I do not. I drive a lesser BMW.
Okay.
So
you aspire, though.
Yeah.
You aspire. All right. I can't believe it's already. I mean, here it is, 12:22, and we're to the back of the book.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow
really
news
quiet week.
It's all right. I'm not complaining.
I mean, well, we had like 17 builds of Windows happened, and then that was about it.
Yeah.
And then Groove.
And just an update. My Surface Book is running perfectly.
Nice. How many minutes?
It's been half an hour.
Oh, good 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You have crossed the Rubicon.
Well, wait a minute though. I'm gonna do a risky thing. I'm gonna reboot it and just see if it comes back. Well, and while I'm rebooting,
so actually, if you really want to be risky, just close the lid.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That is
hey,
risk.
let's test it. Close the lid while I'm restarting. Ooh.
Yeah.
Our show today brought to you by Audible.com. Paul and I are big Audible fans. I look forward to, you know why the 22nd is a big day every month for me? Because that's the day my new credit arrives.
Oh, yeah.
The new credits are here. The new credits are here. Audible subscriptions are great because when you have a subscription, you have the day that it renews and you can buy a new book and it's so cool. But I tell you what, I'm going to get you a new book right now. This could be your day. A free book. Speaking of Tesla's, Elon Musk. This is the Ashley Vance book. It was so good. We interviewed Ashley on Triangulation. It was so fascinating. I don't know why Audible keeps recommending things like The End of Dieting and How Not to Die, but must be because of other books I bought. Great science fictions here. You know what they do? They do the classics too, and they have the classics read by actors you love. Richard Armitage reading David Copperfield, 36 Hours of Dickens Goodness. You'll recognize his voice, I think. Let's play a little bit of this.
Sand and went past gasworks, rope walks, boat builders' yards, shipwrights' yards, shipbreakers' yards, caulkers' yards, riggers' lofts, smiths' forges.
You know, the Victorians loved their lists, didn't they?
That's the voice of everyone who lives in England.
I know, really, not that distinctive. So much good stuff on Audible. Oh, interesting. A modern-day audiobook adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. Interesting. There's a lot of really creative stuff on here. This is a play.
You're not at the hipper end of Old Compton Street. If the ambience hereabouts among our friends and neighbours was any straighter, the whole suburb would be one giant branch of B&Q with a bowling club and a...
I don't understand that language, whatever language they're speaking. It's not... Oh, Paul and I both read The Devil in the White City, Eric Larson's books. I got the new Lusitania book. Can't wait to read that. What are you listening to these days?
Oh, Leo.
Yeah?
Anthony Beaver is one of the best modern day historians. And what this guy did,
love history
by the way, if you don't have this, he has a full telling of the Second World War called The Second World War. It's named kind of like Mary Jo's website, where it's like very,
Wait a minute.
BEEVOR.
Oh, okay. There you go. I spelled it completely wrong.
If you don't have that, I would just say, and this would be for people who haven't signed up too. Right now, it happens to be on sale at Audible. It's only $12.99. It's 40 hours long. It's incredible. But the thing that is almost more impressive is he also writes very specific books.
Yeah, here's one on Ardennes.
That's the brand new one. And
the Battle of the Bulge. Wow.
One of my favorite World War II books of all time is his story about the fall of Berlin. It's just about the last year of the war. It's awesome. But when that book came out, I looked it up and I was going to buy it. It was really expensive on Kindle. It was full price, obviously, on Audible. And what it led me to was one called, where is it? I just lost it.
The Siege of Stalingrad.
Fateful Siege. Yeah.
This I got to listen to.
And that actually is pretty reasonably priced right now as well. I just finished this. It's awesome. It's awesome. And with how I am with history. I mean, I keep going back to it.
Yeah, me too.
My wife walks in on me watching like German World War II documentaries or whatever, and she's like, maybe this time the Germans will pull it out. You never know.
I like a story where I know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
No, I listened to that new history of the Second World War you recommended and loved it. So I'm with you on this.
I love this stuff. And when he goes into a very specific part of World War II, I just find these things to be they're just awesome. And again, this is not the new one. This is probably several years old, many years old, but it's excellent. It's really, really well done.
I listen to a lot of history. I love biographies. I listen to a lot of biographies. I'm listening now to Ron Chernow's Alexander Hamilton. There's so much. Look,
did he fight the Germans in World War II?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, okay, that's a
famous duel. He had a famous duel with
famous anti-Nazi
von Ribbentrop. Audible.com, 180,000 books, fiction, nonfiction, science fiction, technology, literature. I mean, it's everything. It's the best bookstore ever, and they're all read by the best actors and readers. They just come to life in your head, and there's something very intimate about listening to these books. Oh, I watched The Making of a Murderer. Apparently, here's a book about this. Interesting. So if you watch the Netflix series, the documentary, I tell you, here's the deal. Go to audible.com/windows, and you can get, you'll be signing up for the gold plan. That's a book a month subscription. But the first month's free. So you're basically getting your first book free. And if you cancel in the first 30 days, you pay nothing, but the book is yours to keep. So you don't have to, and the nice thing about Audible is the books stay in your library forever. I've been a member since the year 2000. I have hundreds of books in my library, and I can go back and listen to them. You could build a collection, in effect, of audiobooks. I love it. Audible.com/windows. First one's free, kids. But this is an addiction you'll love. And if you have an Amazon Echo, you can have it read to you. I love just saying, hey, Echo, read my book. And it just starts reading where you left off. It's so awesome. Audible.com/windows. First book's free. All right, back of the book. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. Let's start with you, Paul, and your tip of the week.
Someday the Germans are going to figure out Russia.
It's like Groundhog Day. I'm going to be in St. Petersburg in the fall. Leningrad, and of course the siege of Leningrad, very famous. A million Russians died, and in fact, I've been there before. And
but the city never fell, just like Stalingrad.
Never fell.
They had an ice bridge where they can bring supplies over.
It's kind of amazing. There's a place right on the outskirts of town where there's a memorial where there's a German tank and a Soviet tank, cannon to cannon.
Yeah, nice.
And you see that, and
great.
you feel this was the Germans, the farthest the Germans got in, and you see this, and it's history come to life.
There's a moment in World War II where the German guys with the binoculars can see the spires in Moscow.
Yeah,
they were so close.
Incredible. So that's one of the reasons I love to travel, and I do the Audible books before I get there, or sometimes while I'm there. I like to listen. In fact, I've walked around in Venice with the headphones on, listening to History of Venice, and it's just really cool. Anyway, that's a side note. So, this tip is just for me.
Yeah.
Here I have a brand new Windows 10.
Less interesting than that.
Windows 10 install. Should I uninstall the apps? Well, it's I restarted it. Turning on camera, making sure it's you, logged in fast. You know what? I wonder. I wonder if it's all. If it's better. You think that's a fool's...
It seems faster.
It does. It really does. It logged in. No, hello, saw me, and logged me in right away. No camera issues at all. I wonder. Maybe I fixed it.
You didn't. So, all right. I have
oh, ye dasher of hopes, you.
Yeah. No, take it on a trip. It'll be great.
Yeah.
I have a series of tips and picks. They kind of mesh together. So some of the tips are really kind of picks, and the pick is really kind of a tip and whatever. So somebody wrote me today and said, hey, my mail app is not working. And is there some way I can blow this thing away and reinstall it from scratch rather than reinstalling Windows? How would I do that? As it turns out, some apps in Windows 10 cannot be uninstalled. Mail is one of them. Mail and Calendar are treated as a single app. People apps like that, Groove Music's like that, Photos, a lot of apps. It won't let you uninstall them. And there are tips out there about how you can use PowerShell to do that, but come on. We're not Jeffrey Snover. Instead, you could use a free utility called CCleaner. And it does a bunch of things, around cleaning your computer.
It's a registry cleaner for years.
Yeah, but now they have the ability to uninstall the built-in apps in Windows 10, so you can use that. Just don't uninstall the Store app, because then you will have to use PowerShell to get it back. The nice thing about this is if you do want to, this is good for people who want to uninstall the apps. They just don't want them on there for some reason. You're not going to really save a lot of space, but you can get rid of them. And it will prevent them from being updated in the future, which might be useful to people. But if you do want to repair an app, this will let you uninstall it. Then you can go to the store, search for the app. They're all in there. Download it again, and maybe that will fix it for you as well. So just kind of a good thing to know. And then just two things. One happened earlier this week, and one is actually brand new. It happened while we were on the podcast. Microsoft Store is having they're calling it a President's Day sale, but actually I think it goes through the end of the month, or at least for some number of days this month. They're having really good deals on Band 2, Surface Pro 4, and Xbox One. And actually they have deals on other devices too. They have PCs that are on sale and some other stuff. The only thing they really don't have a good sale on is the new phones. But if you can buy from Microsoft Online, that's the only way to get these deals. So just check out MicrosoftStore.com. And then I just saw while we were doing the podcast, Major Nelson posted that if you buy a select Xbox One console or bundle through Best Buy, you can get a free Midnight Forces controller. It's just a special version of the controller, in addition to the one that comes with it. And you can find that stuff at BestBuy.com.
Nice.
And finally, this is kind of a pick and a tip, I guess. Groove got a really big update on Windows 10 Mobile, which I know is like two tiny things that no one uses combined into one tiny thing that almost no one does. But if you are a Groove user, and I know Mary Jo is and I am, for all of the complaining that people do about, Microsoft doing stuff on other platforms first, or the other apps are better than the Windows apps and everything, it is kind of interesting to me that the Windows Mobile version of Groove is not only it's way better than the version on Android or iOS. It's actually better in some ways than the full-blown big Windows app as well. It's a better looking app. There's a lot more information in the app about songs, where the music is stored and all that kind of stuff. The performance is amazing. It's a great app. I mean, I sort of know that nobody is really using these two things together, but for those of us who are, this is actually the best experience you can have for Groove right now. Is in Windows 10 Mobile. As crazy as that sounds. So if you are doing that, enjoy.
Very nice.
I think that's everything. Yes, that's everything.
Well, then that means it's time for Mary Jo Foley and her Enterprise Pick of the Week.
Yes, I have two, actually. And the first is, it has to do with Jeffrey Snover, who Paul just mentioned.
Wow.
Father of PowerShell.
Callback.
At Ignite last year, Jeffrey Snover demonstrated something called server management tools. And we haven't heard anything about them since, but what they are a set of web-based GUI and command line tools for managing Windows Server. This week, Microsoft announced the public preview of these. And I wasn't sure how many people would care, but I tweeted it and it just exploded. So I guess people have been waiting for this. The first version only works with Windows Server 2016 technical preview, but I believe it will work with other versions of Windows Server in the future. And what these are really good for are managing the headless servers like Nano Server and Server Core that are going to be part of Windows Server 2016. These tools are hosted in Azure, which is kind of interesting. And they also can manage Windows Server they can manage on-premises infrastructure alongside Azure. So I watched a demo of this, and I'm not technical enough to really know how this works, but I've got a link in the show notes to a video, an architectural diagram, and all that. So if you're somebody who was intrigued by this idea of these simplified management tools for server, you will want to check those out.
Very nice.
PowerShell, PowerShell, PowerShell.
I don't really. What just happened there?
All right. And you have instead of a code name, a bonus enterprise pick.
Yeah. So this is a good one for people who are looking for technical books that are published by Microsoft Press. They've got a really good deal on right now where you can buy books and ebooks through their store. You just go to mspressstore.com and they have a code BUYPRESS, all one word. And if you buy 3 books, you can get up to 55% off using this code. It's only good through February 21. But there's all kinds of books. There's certification books, server books, Windows, software engineering books. So it might be worth your while to just kind of go and check out if there's anything you want on their book list.
Very nice. 55% off. Pretty good.
I know. Yeah.
Pretty darn good there. Well, I think because you've done such a good job, both of you, you deserve some beer.
Yay.
And it's time for a beer for Gay Ball.
Yes. This beer.
It does look like Gay Ball.
Yeah.
It does look like Gay Ball. The beer is called Barrier Red Button, and it's got a picture of a guy pushing a red button, just like Gabe pushing the button.
That's why it looks like Gay Ball.
Exactly. It's from Barrier Brewing in New York. It's a hoppy amber. So if you like amber beers and you're not afraid of something that's called an imperial red, which means it's high alcohol red, like 8.3%, I believe, and fairly hoppy as well, you might want to check this out if you're anywhere around New York. It's not often in bottles. It's usually on tap, but I happened to find a bottle of it this week, and I couldn't believe there was Gabe on the label. What was really funny was this was the first picture I took using the Android phone that I was testing, and I saw when I posted it. It said, posted from Twitter for Android, and I was like, uh-oh.
Didn't anybody notice?
Nobody noticed. They were just all intrigued with the picture of the guy pushing the button.
Yeah, that's good. You distracted them.
I did. I didn't have a Joe Belfiore meltdown thing like he's using an iPhone.
Yeah. Well, now you will. Now you will.
Now I will. Now I will. Yes.
It's not over yet.
Yep.
Very nice. Very nice. But unfortunately, we're done.
We're done.
We're done. So I thank you. I encourage you all to visit Paul and Mary Jo in their respective homes on the internet. Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. Paul is at Thurrott, THURROTT.com. And, of course, don't forget the field guide to Windows 10 and Windows Phone. Those field guides are at...
Well, the latest one is at leanpub.com.
Leanpub.com. That's okay.
Yeah.
And you can get the files for those fine posters.
Still waiting to defeat that damn R programming guide that somehow has more downloads than we do. But
our programming guide? Come on, really?
They give it away. Yeah, they give it away.
It's very popular. Oh, they give it away. Well, you can't compete against free.
I will beat them.
We do Windows Weekly every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. You can watch live at twit.tv or download it after the fact at twit.tv/WW. We do audio and video. And you can also get it on any of the podcatchers on any platform. We're everywhere.
It's like malaria. You can get it anywhere.
Yeah, like Zika. Just let the twit bug bite you.
Yep.
But much better outcome. That's not good marketing.
I'm just not good at that kind of thing.
I was just going to say, your brain will swell, but that's really not that's not the message at all. Nope. So sorry. Have a wonderful week. I'm sorry to leave you with that message and that image in your mind. But think of it this way. You'll be glad when the show's back and you can forget it. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.